CountryWide Connect with Andy Thompson and Sarah Perriam-Lamp.
I believe our next guest is on the line. Steve Abel is the agricultural spokesperson for the Green Party. Joins us now. Steve, thank you very much for your time in joining CountryWide Connect. There's a lot to discuss, and actually we're going to stay in the Hawke's Bay just off the back of, I don't know if you heard, Tane Randall was on the show. He was involved in freeze-drying Wattie's peas. So we're talking the closure of Heinz Wattie's and McCain's Food, of huge concern in the loss of the processing. But Steve, at the end of the day, what can the government do to enable that those big processors don't shut down, in your mind?
G'day, yeah, nice to be here. Thank you for having me. I think the reason I've called for an urgent inquiry into the closure of McCain's and Heinz Wattie's and the Greggs factory in Dunedin is exactly to answer that question. What is the impact of this closure on local growers? What's the impact on local workers? What is the long-term effect of allowing these closures on our ability to, process our own food production and to feed ourselves, essentially? So I'm seeking that we have an urgent 12-week inquiry at the Primary Production Select Committee and ask some of these questions and come back with a report to the Parliament advising on what we have learned in terms of the cause of the closure and also the consequences, but also to ask what things could be done to ensure that these facilities don't close.
Steve, you said the word allow there. We don't live in a command economy. We live in a free market economy. The government doesn't have the ability to demand a private company do anything, does it?
No, it doesn't. But the point is that I think there's a point where we as a country have to ask the question, are we content for something as important to us as the way our ability to process our own food and produce food for ourselves and feed ourselves in a bigger context, are we content for that to be left entirely to the whim of the market? Because I think what we're seeing with these closures is local production being undercut and local processing costs being undercut by imported product. And therefore we are losing the ability to do that work here simply because the market is always going to be able to produce something cheaper somewhere else. Now, there are other parts of the world, the Netherlands is an example that comes to mind, where after the Second World War, where that country had serious issues with its food supply, they decided that the number one priority for them as a nation would be to first and foremost feed themselves, and then a second priority would to be an agricultural exporter, and they're an extremely successful agricultural exporter, as you would know, the Netherlands. And so it's not an either or, but I think we have to have the ability to have a serious and mature conversation about how important our local resilience is for us.
But we don't have subsidies, Steve. We have a subsidy-free economy. We do not subsidise our farmers. We don't subsidise anybody effectively when it comes to food production. We also have got a cost of living crisis at the moment where food is getting more and more expensive. You can't blame people for buying imported food that is cheaper than what we're producing here. So you can talk about all of these possibilities, but what is the actual answer here?
Yeah, no, I don't think it's about blaming anybody, to be honest. It's about understanding the nature of the problem. Everyone has a bunch of reckons on what the cause of the closure is. The purpose of us having an inquiry is to actually get to the bottom of it. Let's actually test what is the cause, and let's, as a Primary Production Select Committee, at no additional cost to the taxpayer, because we're sitting in committee every week, the Parliament's sitting, dealing with matters like this. Let us assess and evaluate and seek expert advice on it, hear from the growers, hear from Heinz Wattie's, hear from McCain, and hear from members of the public who want to voice their opinions on it and make recommendations to the Parliament. Now, as to the question of what options there might be for the government, we have, in the course of our history, been willing to intervene to protect important industries. We currently have a deindustrialization going on. We're losing mills, we're losing these food processing facilities. Tallies have said they're going to lose their fish processing potentially. I think we should be willing to ask the question, is there a place for public investment in keeping this sort of food processing capability in New Zealand? And I personally think that's a serious conversation to have. And I would like to see the likes of New Zealand First and Tane Randall supporting that. I think they, interestingly, like the Greens, are more willing to be a little interventionist on these things for the good of the country.
Steve, what has the appetite been from your fellow Primary Production Select Committee members on this inquiry?
So I'm bringing it back to them again this week. I'm sending a letter today, actually, calling on them to bring it to their caucuses and get support for an inquiry. When I called for an urgent vote on it on the 2nd of April, the Labour members supported it. The acting national members did not support it, but they, in their defence, said that they hadn't had a chance to take it to their caucus. They will have a chance this week, and so I'm asking them to consider again, for the good of the country, that we have a cross-party inquiry into the cause of these closures and what can be done about it.
Steve, so interesting. So we'll follow that quite closely. And look, it makes sense what you're talking about. And if there was certainly some easy wins somewhere along the line, and you can unpick those or figure something out there, excuse me, that's a good use of, I think, a good use of a select committee's time. Just coming back more broadly to Green Party, and you are the Green Party Ag spokesperson, and I know there's a lot of cynicism amongst the ag sector about Green Party ag policies, but just outline a couple of policies or what the vision coming into, we're talking election manifestos. I don't know if you've released policy yet, but what sort of things should the ag sector be considering and thinking about what the Green Party are proposing?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Look, I think the thing to understand is the context of the Greens is that food and fibre production is vital to the world. The world needs to be able to feed itself. We as a country have a massive part of our cultural identity and our economic backbone is food and land production. We have to be able to do that in a way that protects the integrity of the environment, keeps our fresh water clean, protects our biodiversity, and doesn't exacerbate or intensify the problem with global heating, which is a global problem, a planetary problem. We genuinely believe as the Greens that we can do all of those things. We don't accept the idea that we have to constantly sacrifice the integrity of our fresh water or our drinking water or our groundwater or our climate for us to produce food. Now, where the challenges, where the rubber hits the road is the extent to which we put in place regulatory frameworks that do protect things like freshwater, do protect things like biodiversity, and the right of landowners to do what they like on their own land. I would say the simple principle is that it is the duty of the regulator and the legislative to set the frameworks within which any business or industry can operate. It's not about telling people what to do. It's about saying what you can't do. These are the lines that we can't cross. You can't pour oil into the local river. These are reasonable things that we should expect. Now, agriculture is both the biggest challenge we have environmentally in terms of the climate, but also the biggest opportunity we have. We're next to irrelevant in any other subject area globally. We are absolutely relevant in farming and food production. I believe the opportunity is enormous for us to transition to more sustainable ways of doing food and farming. And that is something that we can offer to the whole world in terms of the challenges we face. I'm constantly inspired by what I see farmers doing in New Zealand, the innovations, the ways that they're dealing with addressing these challenges. And I think there can be much better support from government to farmers who are doing that real heavy lifting and mind work and innovation and imaginative work on how do we farm more sustainably in a way that's farm gate profitable. A couple of specific things I'll talk about. We've taken a distinct stand against the loss of high country farms to pine forestry. One of our policy positions is to take forestry out of the emissions trading scheme to stop the distortion which sees the loss of pastoral land to forestry. We'll put in place a biodiversity fund to support farmers who want to protect wetlands or protect native forest on their land. We also are seriously going to fund the managing of wilding pines. We risk losing a fifth of our land area to wilding pines by the middle of this century if we don't do anything about it, at a cost of billions of dollars. It's absolutely unconscionable to not thoroughly invest in ensuring we protect our land area, both for conservation values and for farming value from the spread of wilding pines. Those are a couple of things that we're committed to. There are many other things, but that's just a snippet of what the Greens stand for that I think is good for farmers, and farmers are supportive of whenever I speak about these things.
Steve, you do make sense, just as does many other politicians. However, I think your biggest threat is the Opportunity Party, and Daniel Ebb coming in as deputy leader is a threat for those who want to support some of your policies. How do you feel about that?
Oh, listen, I love that we have a diverse democracy, and I encourage all political parties to, take their positions, and we get to vie for the support of the public. And what a privilege it is to live in a country where we have a thorough democracy, and we can, without coming to blows, share our differences of opinion politically. Good luck to them, and good luck to any political party who's seeking the support of the New Zealand public. We obviously have a very clear, long-standing mandate and position that we hold as the Greens. We've been in Parliament since 1999, an uninterrupted period in Parliament, and we've achieved a lot of things that we're very proud of. So we'll continue to stand on the platform that we represent, and good luck to other parties in their efforts.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate your time. Steve Abel, the agricultural spokesperson for the Green Party there.
Thank you so much. Great to be here.
CountryWide Connect with Andy Thompson and Sarah Perriam-Lamp.